Somebody shout when they receive the notification.
You say that like I have notifications on.
Okay, we should be live. Hello.
Hello. Yep,
I'm
I see it on my end.
I'm going to publish the post.
Yep, got it.
I'm gonna actually click it to see if it plays though too. Yes, it does.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We've been on a bit of a summer hiatus, so to speak, these past every 4 weeks. But we're making it just before August comes to an end and we jump into September. A lot has happened. More in these past 2 weeks, I would say, than the rest of summer combined. So let's just jump right in. When we were last on, the Pixel 4a was still rumored, and now it's back, and so much so that even the Pixel 5 has been rumored, and the Pixel 4a 5G. So, but we still have reviewed the Pixel 4a. I've had it for a bit over a week. Ben here has had it for slightly longer, and I like it. It's really good. I think Ben put it best in his review. It's a very solid phone at a incredibly good price.
Yeah, no, I agree in every way. It's for its price, it's a phenomenal phone because this year I've been trying to push a little bit into using some more budget phones and getting that context because there's so many expensive flagships. And the 4A just demolishes everything in its price point. It's just a phenomenal phone.
Yeah. So I regularly use the Pixel 3a as like it has my reading apps, my Kindle app on it, that kind of stuff, and I use that regularly. And compared from the Pixel 3a to the Pixel 4a, I don't like to nitpick. I don't really like the plastic choice they went with. It's a bit more matte. As Ben, you noticed, it's really smudgy. It really gets smudgy quickly.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Nexus 5, how that was. It got kind of smudgy. Personally, though, I don't really mind. It doesn't get as smudgy as that one, but it is super comfortable to hold.
It is very super comfortable to hold.
I think it feels better than the 3A did.
Yes. Though again, I prefer the glossy bit. The Pixel 4a is just a smidge smaller, and it's great. And it's a perfect small phone in my size, in my opinion. It's all basically all screen, and this is my first hole punch phone, and I actually don't like it. I didn't think I would notice it, but I don't like how the lens is not as black as the rest of the screen.
So my thing with hole punch, I actually don't mind them that much, and I prefer how Google did it on this phone versus like where the Galaxy S10 had the punch on the other side. But I still think the best solution is having it in the middle because it gets out of your way more there than anywhere else.
Absolutely. The fact that it's on the left edge, it's probably a cost convenience thing. Samsung made this panel correct. Made this panel, I believe.
I think so.
And
I never actually checked.
And it's a convenience thing, but again, it's a cheap phone, so I don't think anybody will complain. But what is odd is to dovetail into the Pixel 5 for just a moment, that the Pixel 5 kept the top corner hole punch. It's kind of it's clearly a cost saving measure, and they're using the same style of panel, and they know how to lay out the components on this one already. They already have the experience, but it's one of those things that may detract from the fact that it's their flagship offering, their top offering.
It seems like it might be more of a consistency thing. Like if you put the Pixel 4, the Pixel 4a, the Pixel 4a 5G, and the Pixel 5 together on the table, face up or face down, you're going to see continuity.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. They do try to strive for that consistent design language. I just I don't know. I don't know if this is the ideal. If there were no limits, if they didn't have any restricting factors, if they could spend as much as they wanted and all that, I don't think it would be in the top left corner.
No, I agree. I think it's partially a cost thing, and it's probably just a matter of figuring out how to make everything fit. It's probably easier to put it in the corner.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's sorry, Kyle. You had a point.
I was just going to say, if the technology was available to them, do you think they would go for under display?
Under display.
I mean, I'm sure
Where?
everyone will when it's right,
Yeah,
but
It's too far. Huh?
it's still pretty awful. It makes it makes you look like you're in a fog bank.
Eek.
ooh, that's a word.
That's what it looks like.
Okay. Okay.
Surrounded by smoke. I don't know, something like that.
Surrounded by smoke. So yeah. So there's the whole display thing on that front, and so Pixel 4, Pixel 4a, we go from face unlock to back to fingerprint sensor, which totally makes sense for cost saving measures and the period we're in, where everybody's wearing a mask, of course. But it's absolutely excusable on the 4A and somewhat excusable on the 5, given the circumstances of masks for this year, I think. But I think it is such a strategic retreat for them to get rid of it.
Convenient. I don't think I feel like the Pixel 5's inclusion of a fingerprint sensor was decided well before we had a pandemic on our hands.
Yeah, it definitely came from that report a few months ago that Rick Osterloh, the head of Google Hardware, was personally overseeing the phones, and there was this I'm not sure if we reported it, but there was this idea that they're getting rid of all the fun features. They are going back to the basics, and I don't. From a technological standpoint, again, I think it's such a retreat. They advertised having the best implementation of face unlock by being able to leverage Sori, and well, I think all of us thought that Sori was going away after one generation. That seemed obvious enough. But face unlock, it's such a retreat.
Yeah, but at the same time, if they are getting rid of Soli, their version of Face Unlock does take a huge hit as a result because it is much slower without Soli. At least it has felt like that to me. I turned off Soli a while back on my Pixel 4, and it does feel noticeably slower now.
Ooh, interesting. That's a good point.
Just because the whole point was when it senses that your hand's coming, turns on the sensors, so that way by the time it's at you, it's unlocking. When it doesn't have that advantage, it does make a noticeable difference.
Yeah, that's a good point. And again, it might be excusable for the 5, but I'm very curious how they proceed going forward. You can't go wrong with a fingerprint sensor, but something that I've picked up after going back to a fingerprint sensor full time is how I really miss being able to. If the phone is laying down, I do have to pick it up and reach the back, and I kind of did not miss that fact when I had face unlock and being able to just stand over the phone.
Yeah, that is convenient.
So basically, I'm advocating for the side fingerprint sensor, which nobody is on that boat for a shocking reason.
I mean, I liked that on the Galaxy S10e, but I didn't love it. I don't know. It's hard to describe why I both liked it and didn't. It's faster than like the in-display sensors, and it's more accurate, but
Uh-huh.
I think it's partially just because if the phone is even remotely big, if the S10e was a good size for it, but if it's remotely bigger than that, you immediately lose the convenience from one of your hands because you're not going to be touching the button as easily.
Yeah, that's totally
And
because
I think that's the mindset behind why it's not just a widely adopted thing.
but it's so Sony's. So I think Sony is the most avid supporter of that style choice. But yeah, you do raise a good point. It does isolate a portion of the
Mhm.
audience.
I think they got rid of it too for the in-display, and also no one buys Sony phones. So,
Which is a shame. I keep wanting to try one, but never arises. So yeah. So that's. Is there anything else about the hardware? There's only one color, just black. Was it quite black? I forgot. I think it's just black.
just black, yeah.
Just black. And it's a shame that we didn't get that rumored blue color amid COVID restrictions and supply and manufacturing issues. I would have definitely gotten the other color if it was available.
I agree. And I hope the same fate does not come of the Pixel 5.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yeah, it's unfortunate. But I do wonder how they would have handled the plastic again, going back to that, whether if it was colorful plastic, they would have went with a smooth finish. But yeah. Let's see, what else is there? Is there anything else about the hardware?
For the 4A, I mean, not really. It's a phone, and it does that very well.
Do you miss being on a faster, quote unquote, faster phone?
I can notice the slowdowns. I notice.
Yeah, I notice them sometimes too. More so though, I miss the refresh rate.
Really?
Like, I don't complain about it on a $350 phone, but between over the past 8 months, I've been using Samsung Galaxy S20 and Pixel 4 and OnePlus 8 and all these phones with high refresh rate displays, and going back to 60 hertz, it hurts a little bit.
So what keeps you on the 4A? Just enjoying the newness, or
Oh, no,
haven't you gone back?
Oh no, I went back to my S20 about 2 days after I finished. Well, no, I went from the 4A to the Note 20 Ultra to do that, which I think we're talking about later. And then since then, I have gone back to my S20.
But so yes, I have been using the 4A over the 4, and I don't know, I was never in love with the Pixel 4 form factor. It never I don't think it aged well. I know, Ben, you like it in particular.
I absolutely adore that hardware, and I am so sad it is not going to happen this year.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's the most unpixely phone of all the past generations. Google.
See, I feel exactly the opposite. I feel like it's the most pixel.
Do go on.
Just because it feels so much like all of their phones have felt different from the rest, except for the first Pixel. They've just they felt like they tried to do something a little different. But I feel like the 4 was the first phone that really matched up with like the Nest Mini and the Google Home Max and all of those designs to where they felt soft and kind of like human. This phone felt like that to me, and I still love everything about this hardware.
So my counter for that would be that it's the Pixel 3 was the peak Pixel phone in terms of them maturing a design that they got from the Pixel 2. In terms of year to year, maturing it year to year. I think the Pixel 3 was that sweet spot. And I don't know, a Pixel 4 with the 4A with these curved corners and nice hand feel don't you think that the 4A is going back to the 3 language, to like design goal they want to go?
It does feel more like those older phones, but I liked the path that the 4 had set, and I would have been so curious to see the mature version of that.
Yeah, the thing that baffles me about the Google's phone hardware design is that they don't. It honestly seems like every year they start brand new on the design. There's no iteration. There's no real refinement. It always seems like they go for a brand new thing. I'm not sure if that's just the logistics of them like learning how to be a phone company and getting the manufacturing down and getting the HTC team between the 3 and the 3A period. But I don't know. The Pixel 4, I'm not too fond of the design, but I am curious to see what they would have gone with.
Yeah. But I guess we should probably talk more about what actually is coming.
What is actually coming? Yes. Before that, I do want to do some software points in the 4A though.
Okay.
The Pixel, the Eclipse Live wallpaper is absolutely delightful. It's a live wallpaper. It's from the horizon. It matures from the horizon, which also did battery life on the original Pixel and Pixel 2, I believe. But yeah, that's like my favorite software feature. But otherwise, they didn't do anything too radical with software. It's the same experience. It really is the same experience.
The Pixel 4a seems, at least because of the software and everything, it feels like an upgraded version of the 3A. It feels like the 3A with new Google Assistant on top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the characterization I would go with as well. So they got rid of Active Edge, and I don't miss it. Do you miss it, Ben?
Yeah, a little bit. I liked Active Edge, but it's not like I used it constantly, so it's fine.
I just didn't like the idea of squeezing sensors, which would inevitably break because you're squeezing your technology. But that was just a me complaint. So yeah, one more thing that we got we caught first with the Pixel 4a is that it does not include Playground AR stickers, and its Playground was Google's. You could put 3D characters in your pictures while taking selfies or video, and they made a really big deal out of it with starting with the Pixel 2, Pixel 3. It got a redesign, and it was on Pixel 4, and 3A. But after 4 generations of phones, they put an end to it because what Google told us is they're focusing on AR that is more scalable, that is found on a lot more phones. So that's the reason behind it. But it's a tiny bit a loss of whimsy. I do have to say, but from the reaction, I don't think anybody missed it as much as Kyle is going to miss it.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing to me is not just that I don't know.
Go.
It's I just enjoyed it to have stupid things happen with my friends, but I think that we're segueing right now. Like Google is making this less of an exclusive feature and more of a search feature.
Definitely, right? Yeah.
Like I should be able to search Childish Gambino one day and have him dancing through Google search, not through stickers.
I mean, to me, it always felt like it was more of one of those features you'd expect to see on Instagram or Snapchat. And if Google Plus had still been a thing, then yeah, it would have been great. But it would have actually been it would have taken a place there. But
yeah,
it's not something you ever feel like. I never felt like I wanted to use it. I think I used it like twice in its lifetime.
Yeah, same. So yeah, that's on the software front. It won't be on future Pixels. So yes, speaking of future Pixels, let's do a rundown of all the leaks. When it rains, it pours, and that was so true. I think what started us off was renders, right?
Mhm.
360-degree renders, and then our colleagues at Android Central, they had some key specs on the Pixel 5, including the juicy tidbit that the battery was going to be significantly larger. I'm not getting the quote right, but that was in response to these unverifiable Twitter things from one or two accounts that said it was going to have a 3,000 milliamp battery or something like
Yeah,
that.
3080, so like 200 larger than the Pixel 4 that everyone complained about.
Yeah, and everybody was complaining about this supposed choice that was going around on Twitter, and it is kind of interesting to me how the significantly larger thing came out, and that it was an immediate course. It kind of changed the argument, but again, we didn't know how large it would be until this somebody posted somebody who had access to these phones posted pictures of it and gave a spec sheet and gave a basic rundown. And the most notable thing is that 4,000 milliamp battery on the Pixel 5, which is truly, it's I think the clear narrative coming out of the Pixel 5 is that Google is taking everything. They're doing all the things that people complained about on the Pixel 4, all the basics, so to speak, and just hitting it head on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Battery was the main complaint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you think about it, 4,000 is kind of overkill for the phone that they're making, because they're making a phone with a 6-inch display and a Snapdragon 765, and they're putting a battery in it that powers the Galaxy S20, which has 120 hertz, 6 point something inch display, and an 865 with 5G.
Mm-hmm.
So 4,000 is going to make that thing an absolute champ.
Yeah, still 5G to be considered, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's
But on a less power-hungry design, because the 765 has it integrated, where the 865 is on a modem, and that actually makes a huge difference.
Indeed. So yeah, I guess we're all very excited about the larger size, but I guess we do have to see what the actual 5G story is there. So other things is there's a standard lens, which looks to be the same as the Pixel 4 again, which is 4 years down now, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Or next year will be 5, and hopefully they change it before then. But and then the wide-angle lens. What do we think of this?
That's what everybody. It's what everybody wanted. So.
But why? Why do they want a wide-angle lens?
Because they can compensate for telephoto with their super res zoom.
Yeah, you can't replicate ultra wide, and it is a genuinely useful feature. It is something I use fairly often when I have a phone that has that feature.
Counterpoint: given our new social distancing realities, everybody's taking photos much further away, and this was a bad year to pivot.
I don't think so. I think it's still just as useful, because you don't really use it yes, you'll use it at a table if you're trying to take a picture of all your friends, but it's also just useful for, taking pictures of your pets, of your family, of landscape. It makes some gorgeous landscape and architectural shots. Ultra wide is a genuinely useful feature to have, and putting that and then attaching the super res zoom on the standard lens to that, it kind of does create the package that most phones have while cutting down on the cost. So it's a win in my book.
And to counter your counterpoint, with social distancing, you almost need an ultra wide lens to capture everybody.
That's true.
Who are you hanging out with is my question to you. Who Who are you breaking protocol to hang out with? Is my counter to that counter. But yeah, I guess my complaint about going with the wide angle isn't really a technical one as much as going with the telephoto was very opinionated. It felt like an opinionated decision by Google to do something different from other people. And with this one, if this is a phone meant to appease people, I'm curious where the Googleness or the pixelness of this phone shines through. If they're doing all these mainstream features, if they're all cutting all these features down, I'm curious where we'll see Google manifest as, because increasingly it's the one software feature to me would be the new Google Assistant. I think that's what they can default on, and assistant-backed features. So I don't know.
That seems to be about it. Yeah, I mean, and that can be enough. Like just the call screen was enough of a selling point of the Pixel 3 to me. Like just to have an Android phone with Google Assistant call screen was enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they could pull something like that out of the hat for the Pixel 5.
So just another side note about the camera. So night sight is this extremely advertisable feature that Google got a huge win out of. What or is there anything what you think could replace that? What could be the next night sight on Pixel cameras? Yeah, it's hard.
I mean, to be fair, if you had asked us that last year, and no one would have said astrophotography.
Yeah, they did go a step further. That is true. But I'm curious how much further is there anything else in night photography that they could do?
Not that no one else has done.
Yeah. I guess it's video, right? They haven't done software enhanced video because they don't have the processing capability or the large. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no.
Well, they still don't.
Yeah, they still
don't have good video.
Yeah, they don't have good sensors, which that's not changing this year. Like iPhone, its video chops are completely derived by having the best hardware, all custom components and all that stuff. And I don't know how Android phones, or maybe just Pixel phones, get to when does Google get the chance to do video, to do to video what they did to the camera, to still images with live HDR. That's what I'm very curious about.
And can they even keep relying on photography prowess as their selling point, having lost Mark, what was his name, Levin?
Mark Lavoie, yes.
Mark Lavoie. Having lost him, can they continue to rely on the camera, the computational photography prowess of the Pixel line to sell going forward? Are they going to keep pushing the envelope?
Yeah, I think the other big camera thing last year was live HDR plus, and making it live was a big deal in the viewfinder, and they were able to bring it down on the 4A, albeit slightly slower. But I'm just very curious what's next on the camera front for them. What's the next night sight in astrophotography? What's so bold that's going to be?
I don't think we'll see it this year.
Oh, that's a shame. That's a real shame.
They have to have something. There's no juice to the Pixel 5 yet.
I mean, what if they just didn't? What if they just relied on the fact that, hey, this is a really good phone with a really good camera that's way cheaper than everything else?
Then what's the selling point of the 5 over the 4A? Or the 4A 5G?
Wireless charging, IP rating, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any juice.
Also, the fact that the battery, again, is going to be insane.
But
it's not
that much less insane. It's 3,800 to 4,000.
But it's also got a bigger screen, so it's still going to be less. It's not. The Pixel 5 is not going to be this phone that it's not going to be looked to as, this is the one that's pushing everything ahead. I think Google is very decidingly taking almost an off year with this phone and just saying, hey, this is everything that you liked about previous Pixels, but it's cheaper and we're fixing out the complaints from last year.
True, I am curious about that point. I definitely think they're going back to the basics with the Pixel 5 here. They're definitely doing that, and the Pixel 4a to some degree. But they still, given their position and given their marketing, I do think they need a big feature. And while the new Google Assistant is fascinating, it hasn't been a hot feature, so to speak. It's faster, does it on device, but it's not. I think to win you need a gimmicky feature. Not that I'm outside the gimmick, but you need something standout.
Do you though?
Yes.
Because look at Pixel 4a's marketing. It's all about the price. They can still make that same argument in the flagship sector because they're offering something much cheaper. That's how I look at it, honestly.
This is our fearless reader Stephen Hall. He likes to make the point that on contract these prices don't matter, and I don't think. I think $599 is what we're assuming. I don't think that's radically a big enough a drop from 1,000, because they don't see the price at the end of the day, and I don't think price, because my biggest fear of Google going from not trying to meet the specs wall is that they're off this premium mid-range, I don't know what they're calling it anymore, but that it wouldn't be distinguishing enough, it wouldn't be cheap enough to make a meaningful difference. And at the $599, if the Pixel 4a 5G is $499, I don't think it's big enough. The pricing is going to be a big enough differentiator, unique selling point.
I guess we will have to wait and see. I think the price is a good differentiator, also just because, yes, with the carrier argument, but that's still talking that's $15-20 a month less that you'd be paying. That is a especially right now, that's a lot of money for a lot of people.
Pricing does a lot, but I'm just curious how it ends up maturing.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Definitely.
I just don't. It doesn't. There's just no juice to it, and it doesn't feel right. There's a piece of the puzzle that's missing. There has to be something to differentiate the 4a 5G from the Pixel 5, and I just feel like we haven't seen it or predicted it yet. Is the main central part.
Yeah, it's maybe it will be something like call screen in that it's branded under the assistant, but I don't see where the software-based features where that's coming yet. We know we have a pretty good grasp of the hardware, but we're still waiting on what the software story brings. So we have to wait for that. We'll get the Pixel 5 when we get the Pixel 5. So Pixel Buds is the next thing on our list, and it got its first feature drop. So just at a high level, you can boost the bass.
Bassmaster.
Bassmaster. You can boost the bass. That's a tongue twister. There are attention alerts, which are these experimental things where it automatically lowers the volume if it hears a baby crying or a fire truck going through. And actually, one of the more interesting things I found was being able to disable the touch controls so that it's completely voice-only interaction. I think that was a bold choice of Google, to the point where imagine if all headphones are like that, because voice is good enough.
Actually, I think Samsung does that too.
As in no touch controls whatsoever.
Yeah, I think the Buds Live and the Buds Plus, you can turn off the touch controls, but I think that's partially just because some people, they need to adjust them constantly.
That'd be me.
So I don't know if the Pixel Buds. I actually never. When I saw that, I thought, oh, that's cool because they're very sensitive. I didn't actually think about you can still control them with your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
It's
pretty sure Buds Live do that, and I've been testing so many Buds lately. So one other one does it. I just can't remember which one.
okay. So, I guess all these features are nice. But how is your Bluetooth experience?
Much better. I won't say it's perfect. It's not perfect yet, but it's definitely better. I would say, guesstimated 90% less cutouts
That's
with my
nice.
phone
I
anyway.
think mine has been less than that, but it has been better. And I am wondering very much so. I don't know if you guys have seen the people talking about the pull it out the left and then the right. I haven't tested that yet, but who knows? Maybe that was on purpose.
Maybe. Actually, I actually found it interesting that The Verge, they dropped their Pixel Buds review from 7.5 to 7 because of the ongoing Bluetooth stuff, which is I personally have not had issues with Bluetooth quality while indoors. Outside might be a different story. Do you still notice that distinction?
Yes, it's always when it's outside. I still don't have issues inside. I still have it. I don't since the update. I have it significantly less, but it does still happen a lot when I'm outside.
That's I wonder if they can do anything else at that point in terms of it's the hardware. It comes down to the hardware.
Yeah, it has to be the hardware. If they made a big deal about fixing it in this update, it's got to be the hardware.
And that's I don't think any of us are expecting new Pixel Buds for another 2 years or slightly
way longer.
Or way longer, yeah. So yeah, that's the takeaway. First feature drop. I do hope they keep updating these with Assistant S software features though. Hearables is such a promising category, and actually this might be a distraction, but would you want over the ear headphones?
Yeah.
I feel like I already have that in like Sony's headphones. Like
True.
The only thing that they lack versus what the Pixel Buds offer is the Hey Google command.
Thanks for triggering everyone's.
Yeah, you're welcome. Man. I thought about that as soon as I finished saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm leaning towards. Oh, Kyle, what was your answer?
On which? Oh, yes, absolutely. I would. That's just the audio file in me speaking, but I would love to have full size. But I think he makes a good point there with the the XM4s, the XM3s, the Sonys.
Yeah, everything since the second gen. They've been doing it for a while.
Does it even offer the spoken notifications? Because that's my killer app for the assistant.
They do the spoken notifications. I don't think Sony opted to do like the attached to your Google account option, but I think they do everything else the Pixel Buds do pretty much.
Well then, yeah. So then Google doesn't need to make them.
And I think other manufacturers like JBL does the same thing, and I think they do even closer to that experience, like the fast pair and the attached to your Google account and all that. So those exist. It's just they're not really marketed very well for that feature.
Yeah, I think what I would curious if they did do over the ear headphones is whether they would have enough physical surface area that they would do something crazy like add Wi-Fi or direct connectivity or something. I know it's having something next to your ear is quite dangerous, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I don't know. It'd be interesting if they did something cool there in terms of like a full audio independent
with like Stadia integration in there too.
Why not? Why not?
That'd be cool. I'm about it. I'd pay money for that. I'd earn money on that.
Literally just a Google Assistant speaker strapped to your face. Why not?
Why not?
That's basically what it would be.
But I mean, you'd be able to like connect into your party chat and get the game audio and send audio. But oh man, now you got me thinking.
If let's go a step further, what if it has LTE in it? What if it has 4G? I mean,
okay, that's too far.
okay, headphones are never going to replace the smartphone, obviously. But I don't know if it had its own independent connection. I'd be very, very curious what Google would want to do with that, which I don't think there's enough right now. But yeah, that's probably nothing. But yeah. So yeah, let's see. After that, I do want to dive into Ben's review of the Note 20 Ultra and its very excellent takeaway.
All right, let's talk.
How much should a phone be? How much? Okay, so the ads for this phone, they want you. And the phone is getting big enough, it's getting powerful enough that they really want you to do all your work on it, and it's kind of amusing to me how hard the ads push that right now.
I think Samsung's phones have gotten to the point where they are powerful enough to do that stuff. It's just nothing's ready. Like working on it doesn't have a full desktop browser, and websites like, let's say we work on WordPress. That's not ready. That lifestyle is not ready to work on DeX. No, I mean, Samsung, the Note has always pushed the Note as, you can do most of your work on this phone or all of your work on this phone. That's not really a thing for everyone, but in terms of being a phone to get things done, yeah, this is kind of the best phone to do that. It's as perfect as a Samsung phone can get.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really is.
But there's a but there.
It's insanely expensive, and no one should be buying a $1,300 phone in general. And definitely, very, very few people should be buying it right now.
Mm-hmm. And so, if we were fortunately not in this current date and time, what would you think?
Had this phone come out a year ago, even if let's imagine going back a year and the prices had gotten to where they've gotten at this point. Just take 2020, take the pandemic out of it. It would have been the first time I had recommended a phone at this price. Like
really?
It is a genuinely great smartphone. Like they took all the complaints I had, camera wise and stuff. I still have qualms with their camera because it's still very bad at motion, but it's my favorite phone to take pictures so far this year. Honestly, even over the 4A. Like the 4A takes some great shots, but I've been so happy with having like the ultra wide and just the natural bokeh that the 108 megapixel creates. I was so happy with that phone to the point where I wish they had made a smaller version of it with all the same stuff. It is way too big for me, but it's such a good phone. And there are so many people I would have said, if you can afford this, go get it. But right now, $1,300 is too much for a phone for basically anyone. Because honestly, it's so hard to predict what's going to happen next. And it feels insane to watch a company say, hey, ignore everything that's going on. Go buy our phone for $1,300.
So I think if the current scenario wasn't going on, I think the main discussion on this phone it would be that it's peak phone. It's too much. Okay, so you like this because this is the ultimate refinement of the Note series, right? It
gets everything right. Like the screen is amazing. The S Pen is better than it's ever been. It is phenomenal. The software is One UI is good aside from the ads. The performance is ridiculous. They position this phone in a good way against the S20 that they usually launch earlier in the year. It's got a better processor. It's got different priorities than that phone did, where in past years it didn't feel like that. And again, the camera, they fixed it from the other phones that they have released this year. They got basically everything right, to the point where it is a little difficult to come up with valid complaints against it. At any other time, if it wasn't for a pandemic, it would have been, I would be saying, this is the phone to beat. This is what everyone should want to buy right now. But I can't say that. Just because of what's going on. Go ahead.
With all of that, does it demand the price that they're asking for it? Like it still seems insane to me that phones are so much more than $1,000.
Yeah, nothing,
but so much more.
Nothing no phone on the market. No phone. It does. I don't care what phone it is. It does not ask for its base price to be more than $1,000. No phone demands that. But just given the market the way it is, and given how these companies have decided to price their phones in that reality, yeah, it does. It does. Just in the reality of phones are $1,000 or more now. Yeah, it actually is worth that much money.
That is a spirited defense. I'll give you that. It's
which I never thought I would have about a Galaxy Note that costs $1,300. That's what. When I realized that, that's when I knew, like, this is just a phenomenal phone.
That is it's a surprise, and very much props to Samsung in an ideal world. But again, that world does not exist.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, yeah, no, really, that's what it comes down to. Earlier this year, I ripped apart the Galaxy S20 because of a lot of the typical Samsung reasons, and I never thought I'd be turning around several months later.
But yeah, it's good on Samsung for moving quickly within that limited time frame of those two phones. So yeah, that is the Note 20. I'm sure that what we're going to be talking about next week will be the Z Fold 2. Yes, that's what it's called, which is very confusing.
It's an awful name.
It's an awful name. And I don't think anybody has real affinity to the letter Z, which is objectively hard to pronounce in terms of it's awkward and you don't use it day to day.
We could call it the Z Fold.
No, that's good. That's excellent. Z. But nobody would get the reference.
Uh-huh.
Or nobody
in the
stateside in the United States.
Yeah, it would just it's Z is a weird choice. I get what they're going for because it looks like it's folding, but they also don't make a phone that folds that way.
Yes, thank you. That was my big thing about why they're doing that, and I don't think would anybody want a Z phone?
Why didn't they do X? That's my question.
It's about the dimension.
I know I know it's because
it's folding into the Z dimension. The phone's coming at you.
Nobody gets that.
Every promo picture of the Fold shows two folds side by side where it looks like an X. Why did they not just go with X?
Yeah.
That's all I've got to say on that. I look forward to it. I am probably going to buy it. We'll talk about it next time.
Yes, we will. So rounding out this week, is everything that Fitbit announced. Mind you, the Fitbit, Google has not purchased Fitbit yet. The deal has not closed, and honestly, at this point, my enthusiasm towards that deal happening, in terms of regulatory reasons, is but I think whatever the case is, the two companies are working together in some degree, and that is taking shape with Google Assistant being available on the Sense and the Versa 3. Ben, want to give a rundown of those two smartwatches?
So the Fitbit Sense is their big like flagship kind of health tracking watch, and it's got everything. It's got ECG. It's got a new EDA sensor, which helps. It helps with tracking your stress. I mean, it just hits all the notes. It's got your typical heart rate and all that stuff, and it's impressive. You really don't, if you're just tracking like the Wear OS section, you really don't see a lot of this health stuff. And if you look at the Apple Watch and the Galaxy Watch, they are both very much going into health stuff. But if you really care about health features, the Fitbit Sense has all of it. And it's impressive. But then the more mainstream option is the Versa 3, which is just a marginal improvement over the Versa 2, which was, I think, their most popular smartwatch to date. It has GPS now. It still has the 6-day battery. It has a better charger. $329 for the Sense, $229 for the Versa. I think they're both really great for what they are, and even more so now, I like that they both have Google Assistant.
So, is Google Assistant going to be any good on this? Given what we all know, Wear OS is like using that assistant.
It could be. I mean, they're working on audible responses from the assistant, which that'll be nice when they can do that.
Yeah, which Wear OS does that as well. I think the only concern is that with the Versa 2 having Alexa, a lot of people said that wasn't really that great, or it didn't age very well. And considering Assistant seems to usually be slightly more demanding than Alexa on these kinds of devices, that's not a great sign.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't think people even use Siri on the Apple Watch, and that's very feature capable and connected to the Apple ecosystem on the Apple Watch. HomeKit, for example. I don't think, because the turnaround, the signal, the processing time is huge, because this is still. Wait, does it connect over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth?
Bluetooth.
Ooh, that's not a good sign. I mean, it's very convenient to like come up to your house and turn on your smart devices after you've been on the jog, let's say. But I don't see people like asking questions, and I don't know. I'm curious how that goes.
Yeah, for me, as far as like using Google Assistant on Wear OS, it's always been for just commands, like turn on the lights, change the temperature, do this, do that. It's never been for, I think I've maybe used it like twice for asking questions, and it was pretty much just because it was slightly inconvenient to grab my phone.
Yeah. And I don't think it's that it offers that much convenience. The speed will really be a big difference. I can't wait to compare, to do like a Wear OS side-by-side comparison on how Assistant performs. But
you got it.
But yeah, putting Assistant on the Fitbit is like, yay, it's something. Like that's the most obvious integration before these two companies before Fitbit gets purchased, if it happens. But at the same time, it's like, why?
I think it's a selling point for a lot of people who want to buy a smartwatch for an Android phone, because it does kind of represent a little more integration and familiarity between the two. I've seen a lot of people who they just, they use Wear OS because it has Assistant, because they can't get that on big speed on a Galaxy Watch or a Fitbit.
But you don't think that like after a certain point of attempting to use Assistant on Wear OS, they just go to their phone? which is getting a better and better experience. Because what's the honest thing is that the assistant team hasn't put any of the new assistant stuff on a watch, which would truly benefit from on-device processing more than anything, more than any other form factor. Well,
Which part of that's probably because Google doesn't have their own smartwatch.
And again, why haven't they done? Even the Pixel Buds feels like so much a faster experience than Assistant on Wear OS. So I don't know why they haven't brought over any of those lessons yet, and I hope they do.
Maybe they'll work out something with Fossil to do that. Yeah, I think it's more an answer of having an assistant on your watch, at least in my opinion, has never been about, I'm going to use this constantly. It's more been about, it's nice to have, and it's nice to have the one that you're familiar with.
Yeah, you might as well complete the picture, so to speak. That's
Ambient
something. Ambient computing and all that. So yeah, again, we don't know enough about what's happening with Fitbit within Google to have the discussion of what happens to that OS and Wear OS yet. But yeah, it's a pretty big showing by Fitbit, and this is them continuing their roadmap until the Google deal closes. So yeah, Fitbit, this week in Fitbit.
Just as an aside, the thought that came to mind while we were doing all this Fitbit this week is that if I were to imagine what a Pixel watch would look like, it would look like the Versa 3.
I would picture it round, honestly.
Like I would say
circle.
Yeah, I would say just a circular version of that. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It would just be a circular version of that.
Which I don't know where that even came from, but round. Wouldn't it be round?
I don't know. I think the card shapeness of the Versa 3, it would need, that the squareness of it with rounded corners, more like the Apple Watch, but having the squareness to it to be, I don't know. That seems more material to me.
Remember when they did the original Android Wear was so big on cards, and then
I loved it so much.
Literally disappeared in a flash of an eye.
I still think the biggest mistake they ever made with their wearable platform is killing every idea they had in the original Android Wear.
Yeah, Google now, it was such a simple to use. Like, it was stupidly simple almost to use. Using the first Wear OS watch was so simple. You swipe a swipe up or down, and that's it. You get all your cards in that Google Now feed. It was such a good idea, and like something that you could really sell to people. Like now it's this four directional swipe thing going on, and it expects so much of people to use a smartwatch.
I think the current version finally fixed some of the backtracking that they had done, but I still don't think they've gotten to the point where it is as good as the original Android Wear was.
Yeah.
Especially for its time.
Yeah. The Android Wear seemed like it had a solid vision on how wearables would fit into people's lives. Like, it was simple to use because all other complexity would be put on the phone. And it seems like as the technology has gotten powerful, as Google and Co have been able to do more on the wrist, what their natural instinct was to add more functionality rather than keep it simple.
I mean, it was honestly, it felt pretty telling to me. It was, they had this very, very simple vision for wearables, and it worked really well. But then the minute the Apple Watch hit and said, yeah, we're not doing the same thing at all. And then Samsung split off and did the same thing. Google just decided, okay, I guess we have to do this now.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like to me. I wish they would have kept the original around.
Yeah, that is so true.
And to be fair, they can kind of take what Fitbit does and what Wear OS does and kind of take their strengths and put them together. That would be very cool.
That's like years down the road.
It is.
That OS, I
How
don't.
how do you reconcile any of that though? Because like
You
they said
yeah.
they said the purchase was about devices, right? That's what they said just a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
It's about devices. And in the original announcement of the purchase, they said that they're looking at this as an opportunity to grow Wear OS.
Like
I don't know how
it's
how do you I don't understand.
like Fitbit will become nothing more than an app. That it will replace Google Fit in like if like all this goes well, Fitbit will just be an app. The OS will disappear, and they take the hardware because they don't have that experience in house. Um, I think that's like the best case scenario. Because
Yeah.
Ben, you're using quickly. You're using a Versa. You have a Versa 2 on hand, and
Yeah.
the OS is not stellar.
It's not. It feels like, honestly, it feels like what it actually is, which is they took Pebble and said, we need to make this feel more modern.
They didn't even take
Uh,
the good parts of Pebble.
And exactly, yeah, they didn't take the good parts, so it's terrible. It's you can tell that they tried, and does do some. It's not a terrible experience. It's just it's trying to do more than it should.
Yes, because they want to catch
Because
up.
because it's a lower end platform that still wants to be independent from the OS it's connected to, which they don't need to do. Honestly, I think it would be nice to see, if they took what Fitbit is good at, which is the health stuff, add that to Wear OS, and then take out some of the bulk of Wear OS.
Mm-hmm. Like, do you need apps? Really?
Yes,
You need assistant-esque apps that let you do certain tasks, but I don't know if I don't know. Maybe
Just name an app that you use.
Spotify,
Ben.
not on Wear OS, but like on a Galaxy Watch 3. I actually do use Spotify on that.
Yeah, that's a core function, and I think there are so many core functions that the smartwatch at the OS could just handle, or just like what would be really interesting.
I use Spotify in terms of like I will actually use it to start music by surfing through my library from my wrist, not when I'm at home sitting at my desk or in the backyard. I'll use it if I'm out playing. Like I like to play disc golf. I'll use it when I'm doing that. I've used it while driving when I didn't have Android Auto going. I'll use it because I can press it, look back at the road, press it, look back at the road instead of pulling out my phone.
I was actually thinking of more from like an assistant model where all the services sign up and you get it pulled by voice commands.
Kind of like Android Auto.
Yeah, basically.
I can see that.
Or something more like a smart speaker, even where you just say play music on Spotify and it just starts casting, as it were.
Yep. There are no apps.
I think that's kind of an infuriating experience on a smartwatch, honestly.
You can't. You can. There's even less screen size to do stuff. If anything, it should be the opposite way around. You should have full apps and smart displays.
I think anything other than a phone. I don't think the voice model works on the smartwatch very well. I think it should be back kind of like how Pebble had it, where it was tactile feedback. That's my opinion. I think it should be touch based, but it should be simple touches.
Yeah,
with like big targets.
Yeah, 3 action. You could only do 3, maybe 4 buttons, 4 actions, and that was it. And it worked. Scrolling and then going back. That was it. And selecting. So yeah, I hope they take another look at the Pebble stuff when Google buys it, but I doubt they will.
No, they won't.
They won't. On that note, thank you all of you for joining us. You can tune into Alphabet Scoop here every week. Yes, we will be back on Thursdays going forward and publish the morning after. You can find us on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, such as iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Google Podcasts, and you can listen on our site at 9to5google.com. Thank you to Ben and Kyle for joining me, and thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.